Hello and welcome to HangarReady, post Invictus week, or almost, it'll be over soon, show. And we just want to go choo 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 train, him a doll there. Thank you, Duma Loop, howdy. I want to introduce my co-host this evening. Jolly, how are you doing this weekend?
Doing great.
Great. Turing, how about yourself?
Awesome.
Wonderful. Nom.
Doing good.
Great. Josh, how's everything out on the left coast?
Well, it's going to be a fantastic weekend. If I was a weatherman, I would tell you it's going to be 107 on Monday.
Oh, wow, that's hot.
Yeah.
Shapcap, how are you doing down there in the swampy swamp?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. Well, it's been an interesting week. We streamed last week. We normally don't stream every week, but we thought for Invictus we'd do something special. And we had an org op on Sunday with about 40 people that tagged along to check out Invictus week and tour everything. So, Turing, why don't you kind of run us through your Invictus week breakdown?
Hey, all right. So another Invictus week in the can, Invictus week 2951. We thought we would break down a couple of things, just, typically how we look at this stuff, what's the good, what's the not so good, and what's the wish we could have had. We're going to start with the not so good, at least in our opinion, not so good. And I'll lead off. One of the things I wrote down was the fireworks. Did anybody see the fireworks? I know you could hear them, but did anybody see the fireworks at the event? I don't know why they had this. Seriously, you can't see them from the venue. It would have been really nice if you had an open skyline at the Tobin Center. You could have it going on, but I think it was just a resource drain that they probably should not have done. And in the same lines, the hologram at the entrance. Now, during our org operation or event where we toured things on Sunday, the hologram was actually working, and it was really, really good when it worked. I mean, you step out of the elevators and you saw this big guy just start talking to you, but most of the time you just heard the voice. And I think the reason they turned it off was probably because of a resource drain. And I'll say the last one for last, or the last one we have here in just a second. I'm sure somebody will get to it. But hey, Shap, what were some of the things that, in your opinion, they didn't quite hit it out of the park with this time?
I think they had some lofty goals. The fireworks, I do agree with you. It was cool to see coming in, but once you're in, you couldn't really see them. I didn't even realize there was a hologram there until it appeared one day. I was wondering what the big amphitheater was for. I was hoping they'd have some kind of presentations or something, but that never happened. And also you kind of hit something I was going to talk about is I think it would be amazing if they had an elevator or something that took you to some kind of pad up on the roof, where they had, what's their elite squadron? Is it the 999s?
Yeah.
Where they had the 999s do a flyby or something like that. I thought that would have been awesome to see as well. Perhaps we'll see it, for the anniversary sale, something like that. But I thought that would have been cool. Missed opportunity, in my opinion.
Yeah. Jolly, I know we all went to the Javelin Tour. Jolly, you have any comments on that?
Yeah, real quick, the fireworks, I saw them multiple times. I saw them today too. I think they look great, but I agree. Are they worth the lag? I'm not so sure about that one. The hologram, for whatever reason, every day I visited, it was there. No glitches, no problems whatsoever. The Javelin Tour itself, I was disappointed in. I really thought they would have opened up more of the ship to us. Mainly, I like to see the cockpit, the command bridge, and stuff like that. I mean, great. I can walk around your hallways or look at your mess hall, or look at your, bedding, but recreation area. That's
Yeah,
about
it was
it. It
almost
looks to a turret, but I can't do anything with it. Yeah, it's disappointing.
Yeah, to me, it was almost like just a brighter version of the Hammerhead. Walking around the hallways of the Hammerhead in some ways. I mean, it looked kind of like that. Npcs, what your feedback from the?
Kind of the same thing. I wasn't quite as disappointed in the interior, partly because I didn't really have any expectations. But it was just pretty meh inside. But at the same time, I kind of appreciate if it's just all business and not a lot of flash at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'm not too invested in that one way or the other.
Cool. All right, so then we thought about some of the things that we wish we could have had this time around. I think I mentioned this the last Invictus, or at least during the IAEE whatever the annual show. They do really good with allowing you to rent the ships. If you're going to put the weapons and components out there, maybe you can try to look at getting people an opportunity to rent those too. It'd be a good time for folks in the game to see, hey, I'm thinking about trying out, see the 788s versus, a laser, maybe have the Gauderines out there for you to put on stuff. I mean, it's just be an opportunity for you to look and see what the different types of components and weapons might be available to you, and then just let people have them for the week or whatever, and then they go poof at the end. I mean, you can do it with the ships, you could do it with the components, I think, but it may be just too much to work on.
Well, hey, Turin.
Yep.
You notice how he skipped over me about my complaints.
I'll get back to you.
Right over me.
We may not have enough time.
That's what you get for naming me the first segment thing, man. So
I know,
Yeah.
I know.
I'm more of a jump in kind of guy than the leader kind of guy. So.
Yeah. Well.
So Josh, what do you got?
Well, from the Fighter Mafia, we've done a lot of testing and, deciding whether or not to use stock loadouts or to have upgraded shields or weapons or power management. I don't know how many people understand what the difference is in terms of how strong it can make your shields, how much power it can give to your weapons. And now I think people need to really understand as well, something that I tried out recently was just, again, overclocking. There's little downside and it produces a lot of power. So I think it's an interesting dynamic that people should understand, and it gives them a gameplay loop. Oh, hey, look, I tried these shields, I tried these guns. Now I want to go earn them in game. So I agree with you that they should have them. And I think there's a reason because, you can see an actual difference in your ship's performance.
Yeah. Jay.
Oh, well, we're going to get started. Yeah, it's buggier than it should be. I only died about a half a dozen times trying to get into the Javelin because even though I have a monster of a computer, it's not rendering in the entire gangway of the docking collar. And so I would get about halfway out and then I would have to float through space, but not really because the thing was there. So if I got too far out of the center, I killed myself on invisible walls, even though I was floating and not walking. And getting back from it was impossible. And then when I died, I got locked in my room and couldn't get out without quitting the server and leaving the party. So, yeah, I think it was a bloated, hot mess, really. That's my honest opinion. I would say that, it's definitely not as good as the last sale that they did, the yearly sale. And, I really think that they could have done a much better job. So CIG, it was worse than last time, and that's really bad because last time wasn't that good.
That's one of the comments that I had up there is that, what could we have had? Well, more oomph for Invictus in general. I mean, it was very low key this year. Even including what was leading up to it. I remember last year they had several videos, the ships, flying through Microtech, the little kid that's going out and joining the Navy and all this kind of stuff. They didn't have any of that this time, and I think they really missed something when they had Xeno Threat. They had a lot of stuff that they could pull from. You got a sense of it when you went into the actual hall and you could see on the screen for whatever manufacturer was running that day, they were running like little small commercials and things like that. They really should be doing stuff like that, on the weeks leading up to it, I think, to just do the hype. And the same with Drake. I mean, I went to the Drake presentation today. Man, that feels dated now. I mean, it really does. I mean, it's kind of cool that you got this thing called Defense Con and Drake wants to get its name in there and the whole, Drake versus everybody else, kind of thing. That's great. But you walk in there, it's one big caterpillar and just lining up with cutlasses on the side, and it's just getting old. So I was really hoping that they would have a little bit more from. Of course, Drake doesn't have much out. I got it, but it's just getting dated with that kind of mentality. I don't know.
It seems like they thought that bringing the Bengal out and the Javelin out to fly around was good enough, because that's really the only thing they did. It was a cut and paste from last year.
Sort of.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think it was. I think it was a lower.
It was
from
better
last
than
year.
last year.
It's less
believe
because,
better than last year.
Yeah, I go the better way. I go the other way. I
Didn't
think
they
it's better.
have the F8s? They weren't landing on the pads next to the Javelin, were they?
No.
Yeah, last year that was really cool when they had those coming in landing, even if they were a little janky at times. It was kind of cool to watch. This time there was none of that.
Yeah, and when you went into the venue at Area 18, when you walked in, you had they had the F8 on one side, you had another venue on the right hand side, you had the MacArthur statue. They had all that this time, but I think because of the architecture that was available at Microtech, it gets spread out, and so if you decided not to take the long run to the side areas, you missed seeing the F8. It wasn't out prominent like it should have been. It should be along the sides, of at least the main hall there. Some more stuff, and you've had an opportunity to flesh out the UEE Navy and all that kind of stuff. Put your artists to work on putting together some really cool displays. I mean, just make it look a little bit more presentation, professional. I don't know, Shap. I mean, you do this kind of stuff. I mean, what do you think?
I think what made the in-game representation of what a trade show would be, what's missing there would just be the people. Those kind of shows have tons of people roaming all over the place, sales reps, food stands, other kinds of crap all over the place. They did
demos.
add demos. They did add NPCs taking selfies, which I thought was hilarious. If you stood around and watched the NPCs, they would sit there and they'd pull up their Moby glass and they'd like do one of these, like looking back at it. I thought that was kind of neat. And say what you will about the lead up for the event, but I think the Invictus video they put out was awesome. The Join the Fleet video, I think that thing was pretty cool. And I put it on Reddit, and the most commented thing was how awesome the Bengal sounded popping out of Quantum. It had this big like boom when it popped out,
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, and people got really hyped up about how awesome the Quantum sounded. But all in all, I think it was on par with last year. I wouldn't say it was worse personally. I think it was different. I don't think it was negatively different. I enjoyed it, overall.
I believe it was better than last year. I really, really believe it was.
Plus one jolly.
Yep.
Okay. I would say that at best it was on par, if not slightly worse.
Well, there were some really good things, and I know CIG, if you're watching, we do this on purpose. We do this to help, but there's some really, really good stuff. No, trust me, we're here to help. We're here to help. There was some really good stuff, and I'm actually going to say that the ship displays again are nicely done. Even though you've got a big venue at the Tobin Center, you feel like you got to walk a long ways there. The display that they put out, the accompanying signs and the information, it does look very professional. And the Crusader Day was fantastic. You pop up at the top of the escalator kind of stairs or whatever it is, and there's all three of those Hercules just staring right at you, and it was pretty impressive. RSI Day as well, when they arrange all the constellations around like that. The Tobin Center, the layout of it makes it a little bit hard. We did say that internal elevators would be nice. You do it for the R&Rs. Why can't I take a little side elevator to ride to someplace in the back or something? But because it takes a long time to run wherever you're going to go. But still, the actual displays, when you went downstairs, and for like the Tobril, the Nova tank one was awesome looking. They really do make a nice background with that. So that was nicely done. And the Bengal Flyby, hey, that was the centerpiece for what we were doing this time, is to actually see the Bengal ship, there in game. It was impressive when you got to it. I'm telling you, if you didn't have the opportunity to pull your largest ship out that you can currently fly and get right up next to it and feel like you were a gnat, you missed out for something. And if you get too close, those antennas will slice you right up to bits, just right to shreds. So I know a number of us went by and took a close look. And Josh, I think you took a really good close look at it.
I did, but before we take a look at that in the next segment, I wish we had some pushy sales guys running around trying to tell you why you should buy this ship or upgrade that. It'd be pretty awesome. Maybe they follow you around or something.
Life imitating art there.
Yeah,
Art
exactly.
imitating life,
For
something
sure.
like
Yeah.
that.
Somebody walking around handing out a card or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
if you go to a show, you expect to be bugged and harassed about buying
People walking
something,
around with bags,
Yeah, some
goodie
merch.
bags, merch.
Yeah.
bags.
That'd be awesome if there was
Swag
a
bag.
random NPC
swag
giving out.
Yeah.
Like a random NPC giving out like Drake hats or something to a couple
Well,
of people.
we did get the flight jacket this year. Everybody gets a permanent flight jacket in their actual inventory, not in their hangar, not in their gonna get wiped inventory, which is nice.
Oh, nice.
A lot of people were salty about that after the last one because they would disappear after a reset.
Right.
So.
Now, I also think there's been a missed opportunity on a couple of occasions where I can't remember if it was the last December sale or if it was the previous Invictus, but they had the big banners and I found out you could actually get on the banner and walk up. And the cool part was you could see the ships from a different perspective. And I think they need some kind of place or scaffolding,
Catwalk.
something. Yeah, something to where you can come around and take a look at that ship in a different way. I think that would be really awesome. Something they could add for a feature.
Yeah, elevated lounge space would be
that
nice.
Would be
Sponsored
nice,
by somebody.
Catwalk.
Yeah.
And just make the overhead see-through so you can be and like you said, somebody said earlier, have an elevator to go up to the top.
Yeah.
See the fireworks and flybys and be able to look down in there if you wanted to.
And then I just need some hot dog wrappers around and we'll be good.
Well, you could just put a G-Lock, lounge bar on the top of the Tobin Center.
I think that'd be the way to do it.
That.
Add the Million Mile High Club for the super VIPs. All that. I mean, because those are all real things. That are at conventions. Yeah. I think what they have to contend with that makes it difficult is they have to make the space able to contain the ships of the biggest manufacturer. So when you have a day where you have somebody that doesn't really have a bunch of capital-sized ships, the room's really empty, right? Like you shove an 890 and a 600 series in there, and then you've got RSI, who their biggest ship is a Constellation right now, right? So you've got all that space. Either you cram 40 Constellations in there and a bunch of Ursas, or you just have a big empty room,
Or RSI could just release the Polaris. I'm just saying.
Hey, man, no comment there. Yeah.
Give us the skin.
Yeah.
All right, Josh. I think you got something to show us on the Bengal Flyby, right?
We do. So I did take a look at the Flyby. Thank goodness that they had a Hammerhead and some other ships in the formation with it, because if you didn't have that, it'd be really hard to see what that looked like. But you're going to see a video here of me trying to land on the Bengal carrier, and there's no real collisions. And you don't really touch down on the deck, so it's kind of was like colliding with it, and eventually my ship explodes. But I actually did get there and no one shot me, so I figured I would die and end up in prison, so I just ended up back in my bed. But it was interesting to try, and I thought that view with the fleet coming by all in total was a nice spectacle, and it did give you some understanding of the size and scale of that ship. That begs the question to me of just how powerful is that ship going to be, and what size org could take it, and how much resource and time is it going to take to utilize it? Because that's just got to be. I mean, I think the Hercules ships are about $100,000 to refuel or something like that. And I know the 890 was, so I can't even imagine what the fuel bill is on something like that. So, you got to use it strategically, but I just wonder how much it's going to take, how much time, and how powerful that really will be for the universe.
Well, it's sort of like the Bentley of the Star Citizen. If you have to ask, you can't afford it. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So the answer to your question is not very many orgs and all your resources.
If you got to ask how many people it's going to take, your org's not big enough.
Yeah.
Well, and then you got to ask, is it even worth it? What are you going to do with that thing?
If you
Well, I
got
think
to
I like
essay,
Jolly. I think I like Jolly's plan for the Bengals that we find out there. Jolly, what's your plan for that again?
Salvage the hell out of them so no one else can get them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go full on shipbreaker.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. One of the things, though, that having the Javelin Tour demonstrated this time was that station or ship to station docking is now viable in the game. Although I think tier 0, it's still kind of tier 0, 0.5 maybe. You only have, I think, 2 ships right now in this current patch, the Hammerhead and the 890. I know the 890 can do it because a guy I fly around with, Big for Life, I know he's out there. He landed my 890 or docked my 890 one night, almost manually up until the very last bit. So it can be done. But that opens up so much more gameplay for larger, and it makes it really exciting for the larger ship owners to have that coming in. And to see and going down to that area and seeing the docking lounge, and then even though I think they need some lights on the actual tube that goes out to the ship, if you go to the regular docking port, there are advertisements that line the docking arm that come out, so it is well lit. It is a walk, don't run. Venue, please don't run down the center of the aisle. You will do a J and start bouncy, and you will die.
I was not running. I was walking.
Okay.
Just for
one
the
thing,
record.
One thing, Turin,
Okay.
is on the docking ports, maybe it was just a bug, but so far I've found that you can't refuel, rearm, and repair
No.
a docking port.
Ooh.
That needs
Yeah.
to be fixed.
Yeah, you
I've
can't do that.
noticed-
That's why I said it was tier 0. I think it's just the mechanic now, but you
Yeah.
cannot do that. The only way I was able to refuel my 890 is give it its own backspace burrito and refill it.
Now,
I've
there was
noticed
another-
the ships are spawning unlocked attached to the docking bay as well. Like the
Hmm.
Hammerhead, you can you could spawn it and just run right in.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same with the 890 or not.
Well,
but,
the 890 comes with its own little bug in that you can't. You seem like you can't open the door from the outside. The only problem is the door is not really physically there, so you just
have to run
basically just
through
go right through it, turn
Yeah.
around, and then open it for the rest of your runs, but they're behind you.
The other thing I noticed is I was trying to do a manual dock, and so I had left port, turned around, came back, requested docking. It assigned me a dock. And when I came back, I was trying to line up the 3 little green dots for the manual docking. And I didn't realize, 'cause I didn't understand the symbology just yet, that it wanted me to turn my ship around and reorient the same way I came out. I couldn't dock back to the other side. So I don't know if there's a way to tell or to determine which side you want to dock on, but I think that needs to be an option as well, since the 890 in particular has a dock on either side.
Yeah, it's
But
only the
I've
port
only
side.
ever- Yeah, it's
sorry,
only
no.
ever seen it. Only ever seen it docked port side.
we need a docking camera.
That would be
Yeah,
nice.
the thing I didn't realize is when you come in, there are 3 circles that you have to actually line up. 2 of them have to actually go on top of each other in the center circle. So that was fooling me when I first started doing it. But when I figured that out, then I was able to do it just fine.
For the CIG folks that are watching us, there's a game that is now defunct called Hellion.
Yep.
You really should go watch the videos for their docking interface and take some notes. And then go bang your head against a wall, come back and take some notes again, and it basically implement that system. It's a very intuitive system for docking collars.
Yeah, I think they're
And
close. I think
they're close,
but
It's close.
they need a major
it's gonna be
revamp.
good.
that last
It's
little
at least
step.
doable. I've managed to do it, and I'm not the best at these systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to talk about, the last thing for the Invictus, and of course it's not by many means the last, but we have talked about the Javelin Tour, and there wasn't a lot of stuff that was opened up, and you really didn't get to see anything. But my gosh, you actually got to go aboard a Javelin. So I mean, that in itself was one of the goods. And one of the things I liked about that was the integration that CIG did in the game itself with the signage all around. If you went to the R&Rs, if you're riding the Microtech transit system, you had a little sign that said where the Javelin was located and how much time was remaining
Yeah.
in to see it. And that, I mean, it doesn't sound like a whole lot, but
that was huge.
but to me, that's just an indication that you can push information out in real time inside the game, and it goes on the monitors that are there, and I think that's great. And then there was the thing about the NPCs that were inside the Javelin, the ones that gave you the little talk, but the ones that were hilarious were the dudes who were bored out of their gourd. And you could hear them standing there going, oh my god, this is so boring, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they did that on purpose or some dev slipped that one in, but it was hilarious, and that made the tour for me.
I like that the NPCs would get more and more frustrated with you as you hung out longer than you were supposed to.
Yeah.
And each one of them had their own, like, tour's closing, you should head towards the exit. And then when you got to right before the you go to jail part, they were considerably more angry with, like, leave now. And I thought that was pretty nice.
Yeah, and the guards guarding the various places, they were no nonsense, man. I mean, basically it was everything but turn your ass around and get out of here kind of stuff.
Well, in the PTU they did the chicken dance, which I thought was hilarious. But then once you got in, they actually gave you the firm stop hand and the point.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Wave you on.
Anyway, Jay, that was the.
Here's the big thing about the Javelin, because while I was frustrated by the Javelin Tour, to say the least, once on there, I had an epiphany, and that's a big freaking ship. We really only got to see the bunk areas for all practical purposes, and they're like 80 bunks. It's huge. How on earth do people now who have purchased one of those with the idea that they're going to solo a Javelin? What is your thoughts on just how insane trying to solo a Javelin with NPCs and AI blades?
Jay,
you ever the battering ram?
You ever seen those little tiny cars that are jacked way up and not 4-wheel drive and have the big giant wheels?
Yes.
They're pretty useless, right?
More useful than single person Javelin.
I'm just saying, I guess unless you want to show off or something, there's no way. I mean, I can't even.
It's a flex ship.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to do anything with it. The amount of, I think it comes derelict, right? Like there's no weapons and whatever. So you have to be able to spend a bunch of resources to get it to work. And then the crew requirements, I mean, thinking about the Bengal and that, I mean, it's going to be ridiculous. I think it's a big org ship, and that's it.
I'm not even sure you can actually solo it. I mean, they got an engine room we didn't see. They've got the
whole bridge
navigation that we didn't see, the whole bridge and stuff. The helm guy, hey, I helmed. I mean, I was a helmsman on a USS guided missile cruiser at one point in my life. All I did was turn the damn thing. Okay, so if when I flip that engine order telegraph, if the guys down in the engine room didn't dial up the right stuff that you needed, the ship didn't go. So you've got a problem if you think that you're just going to have that ship all by yourself and not be able to take it out. The realization came when the NPC said, we got a mess crew here. They're open 24 hours a day. We got, we run a normal crew complement anywhere between 40 and 80 people. 40's the minimum, 80's the high, but you got to have somebody cranking out in the mess decks all the time. So, I don't think anybody's going to be able to do it.
And those ships are always selling out. Like they just keep selling and selling and selling. So
yeah.
I mean, must be a lot of people buying them, a lot more than I would think organized people can use at this point, at least.
Yeah. Well, if you promise to not tell anybody, I was able to find a way onto the bridge of the Javelin, and there are no less than 8 crew positions on the bridge.
Did you take pictures?
I may have. It's multi-tiered. It's multi-tiered, and there are a bunch of positions for crewmen. And CIG actually did a really good job of putting, and there are people there, there are NPCs there who were doing their jobs in their seats, but CIG was smart enough to put them in clear boxes, so you couldn't actually get to them. And they also put a bunch of what I would call trap positions, where you could be like, oh, I want to enter that position, and you would, but then you couldn't get back out of it again.
Right.
So, yeah, anybody who thinks they're doing one of these things on their own or with some NPC blades is out of their mind. I mean, how you even can tell the guys what to do, you know? So
I honestly think if you're not in an org with at least 400 people, bare minimum,
yeah,
probably more like 800 or 900.
Yeah.
Is that
A Javelin's a waste of space for you.
isn't that ship persistent? Meaning,
No.
it's
No,
not.
No,
it
Bengal's the
spawns.
only one that I know that
Okay.
they've said there was going to be. But I was even thinking about, my Polaris or something like that. Is it going to be hard to even run something like that?
yeah, just shuttle it around,
I
like
will say this.
Stevedore.
I will say this. It's not 100% though. Things like point defense turrets, I think people can reasonably fill with, as long as the NPCs are somewhat effective. You could supplement some spots if you don't have quite enough crew for the day for simple positions like that, where all the AI has to do is shoot at incoming targets. More complicated things, like you're going to have engineering needs, other issues, that has to be done with a player. You just can't depend on an NPC for that.
You're going to need 20 to 40 people to crew
At
one
the
of those
least,
things
yes.
into
Yeah.
combat. I
At the
mean,
least.
and I mean, the thing's just got guns galore. And, even if you put the guns on NPCs, you're still going to need people to do maintenance and damage control and, repelling borders and all that stuff. So you're going to need a crew of 20, 30, 40, depending. And, let's say it's 40. And keep in mind, that's 40 just to crew that ship. It's not to crew any other ship to go with it to, protect it against, bombers and whatnot. But, your law of averages says that in order to crew that, you need about 10 times more players than that in your org. So, I mean, if you're talking about 40 people, you need 400 with the complement, of other ships. You probably need like 800 members in your org to be able to crew one of them. How many orgs has that many players? I mean, it just, it's a handful. I mean, well, it's a couple dozen that could crew one at any given time. And, there's probably only a handful that could crew multiple at the same time.
Without it being a sitting duck. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
combat effective.
Properly supported. Yeah.
Yeah. Combat effective. Not just a sitting target out there. I mean, it's kind of like Idris's, except the Idris is big. Don't get me wrong. I've walked next to it, but the scope of the Javelin just makes the Idris and the Karak and the Hammerhead just pale in comparison. That was the awe that I felt from actually getting inside the Javelin versus getting to see it at a dock floating outside.
Yeah, it gives you the vibe of a real Navy ship
Yes.
for sure.
Yep. It's huge.
It-
Well, Jolly, how about we move over to segment 2?
All right. Real quick, guys. Quanta, Quasar, and Virtual AI. On 24 May, RSI put out a video featuring Tony Z. It's 40 minutes long. It's very extensive. It's very informative as for what the game is going to become. If Jacqueline, I get you to just copy paste that link over to the chat. Don't bring it up because it's too long to go through the whole thing. It's worth your time after the show, tomorrow, whenever. Take a look at it and spend your time with it. Very technical, but very worthwhile to understand how the game is being developed. Quantum and Quanta they've matured quite a bit. Now, what Tony calls Quanta, I call it NPC AI. Call it what you will, doesn't really matter to me. They've made vast improvements with it. They're improving the game with it. We haven't seen all of it yet in game. Hopefully we will at some point in time in the near future. They also include a lot more. He's speaking a lot more about the virtual NPCs that are out there. Basically, when you play the game, NPCs that are in the game itself, when we are within scanner range of them, we see them on our scope. Visual range, we start seeing their ships. When we're outside of both those things, those NPCs are still there, but we're not wasting time and bandwidth on having them loaded onto our screen because we don't need to see them at all. They disappear for us, but they still stay with the game. and they move around as a real player would possibly do. He gives some examples of that. He actually does a walkthrough with a pirate he calls Dragon, which he talks about how if I run across a NPC pirate at some point in time, I battle with them within a comm range, which means it's all been recorded by the game itself. Then that pirate shows up, gets a crime stat, and we know what's going on with him. Now, eventually, that pirate, that NPC, will leave my range. He'll disappear off of my game. He'll still be in the game itself. If he leaves the comm range, the last known position of that pirate was where I last saw him. Last time it was reported to the comm system itself. And that if he has a bounty on him, also that we report everybody else. Last known position was at that system itself, those coordinates, whatever the case may be. Then he enters a new area that may or may not have a comm connection with it. If it doesn't, he will not show up. If it does, he will show up again, being over this other new area, a new last known position. They'll update the bounty on him, if there is one, to go ahead and hunt him down. So he's trying to explain how try to make the game more realistic. The NPCs are still there in the game, even though he's trying to minimize the amount of bandwidth and computer strength we need in order to see all this stuff. One thing that really came through to me was the amount of NPCs that are played in the game itself, and they really do dominate it. We were told all along, this isn't a surprise, players make up 10% of the population in the verse. And so there's 90% of the NPCs that are out there playing around the verse, and we may only see 10% of them, but trust me, the other 80% are still doing what they're supposed to do in the game. Noam, I know you saw the same video I did. What's your comments on what Tony's trying to get across to us?
Well, you pretty much summed it up. Honestly, it's a lot. That video is a lot to unpack, but it's just I really like that they're basically showing how the sausage is made. As far as I really like that. A lot of games they like to leave this vague. You don't really know where it starts and stops. But I like they're spelling out so we get an idea of just how far-reaching this is trying to be. It's just this is one of the things that they need so many different pieces for this to work. But if they pull that off, it's just going to make for this is pretty much key to be able to have true dynamic events, dynamic encounters and stuff in the game without everyone seeming scripted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say that, but it's
What's showing here on the screen right now, just real quick, those green dots, those are NPCs. Those aren't players.
Quanta. Those are Quanta.
That's the Quanta.
Quanta,
yes.
Not
That's
NPCs.
the Quanta. Those are the AI ones that aren't physicalized in the game at all.
They show the impact that we have. In this particular description or the little video we saw previously, Tony was talking about how a mining area was found, and maybe by a player, whatever the case may be, they start mining it. However, the word gets out, and all of a sudden, the Quanta or NPCs realize it's there. They start hogging it too. They start drawing away from it. So, as much as I like to think that the game is a player-based economy, it absolutely is not. This is not easy. It's going to be definitely a game-based economy, and the NPCs will drive.
Yeah, Charlie, and this is where one of my concerns is when they were doing that explanation of the Quanta finding he started off by saying, the Quanta exploration ship comes along and finds the planet and finds the gold, reserve. Then he sends that out to his Quanta organization, and then they begin to go in and begin to take and mine and to actually deplete that gold deposit on the surface. My issue with this is that the Quanta themselves, being non-rendered in the game, non-physicalized, unless they build some sort of governors into the attributes that they were talking about, because it's a great way of looking at how you can mimic real life. But unless they build in some governors, those Quanta don't have to worry about spawning a ship. They don't have to worry about getting the ship out. They don't have to worry about getting to where they need to go. All of which in Star Citizen now, as we all know, takes anywhere between 30 and 45 minutes to really go and do something. And by the time you get to where you need to be, the gold may be gone.
Well,
Yep.
they
So,
have
so
said,
how are real players going to be able to react in time enough to be able to get in on the benefits? And so I think some in the presentation that was shown, the examples of which the players interacted with the quantum system are all in what I call combat related encounters. You pull, you're hitting a bounty hunter, you're pulling somebody out of quantum, you're reacting to a service beacon that's being put up by the quanta, that's being attacked by the quanta pirates. There's something of that nature. I'm not so sure how real players are going to be able to get in on the economy side of it, without being, just again, a large organization where you can spread yourself out over many time zones, many hours, many days to be able to look at stuff. No.
You're right.
Well-
You're absolutely right, Karen. I agree completely. My hope is that they develop something. You're familiar with the commodity alerts right now. They're in the game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, right now, those are pretty damn limited. They're, to be honest, they're disorganized. They're a pain in the ass to look through. It's not a matter of I could scroll down and find a specific location saying what's over and understocked. I have to scroll through everything to find out. Lorville, for example, might show understocked and something, overstocked in something in one area. Scroll down, there's Lorville again, understocked and overstocked in something else. They really need to rework on that one and get it more organized so a player can quickly figure out, like a trading board, a stock market board, saying what's selling, what's buying, and where to go to get those. That needs to be worked on quite a bit in the game itself. Otherwise, we will always get hind teat in order to figure out some way to earn credits to the game through the commerce part of the game itself. So
Right.
a lot of ways to go on that. I know they're still developing it. I do hope the commodity alerts or something better than commodity alerts are developed out there. A board I can go to in the game, that's fine. I don't need to get it outside of the game, but in the game, I can take a look at and figure out, okay, what's the good trading route for this point in time right now? I know it'll be different tomorrow, but right now, where should I go to buy and sell? And we'll wait and see on that one. But
I think that's got to be on your
concerned.
Moby Glass. Between you, me,
Moby
and the
Glass?
wall,
It-
it's
Great.
got
it
to
has
be
to
on
be
the
a
Moby
ready
Glass.
access to it. Yeah.
Yeah. You need to
what
be
they-
able to pull it up wherever you're at.
Well,
I would
also, I mean, data running's got to be part of that too, right? I mean, what are they going to wind up doing?
Well, I was kind of thinking data running is more of information in terms of jump coordinates, or like you
commodity
said,
prices
you're
could
right,
be.
You're right. Well, commodity prices, but locations to mine, locations to
Yeah, fair enough.
My
buy.
thing is,
like
if
that.
the quanta can get it in real time, the players need to be able to get it in real time.
Yes. Well,
I
he
would-
did say in the video, he shared it amongst his organization, that the Quanta shared amongst the Quanta's imaginary organization. So I kind of get that, but word does get out, and players should get it as much as the Quanta does.
I got a little something I want to say on that there. When it comes to getting the word out, when they find the resource, like he said, when you were talking about players left getting the refuse and what's left over because they didn't get there in time, that's going to be part of the testing when this starts rolling out. Is they're going to find out, okay, how long does it take the average player to get there, to get their ship spooled up, to get out to the location, and they're going to have to adjust. They have those times baked into the quanta as far as their travel times from point A to point B and all that. So they may find they have to add X amount of time to that trip to make them equal what a player would do. Conversely, when we find something, it's the same thing. We're going to start sharing it with our members. The system is going to assume the word gets out. I hear a lot of people talking about, oh, we're just going to claim this sector of space. We're going to claim this area of a moon. Now, the UEE won't say we own it, but we're just going to claim that area and it's ours. That might work. Maybe you can make that work with other player organizations. But these quanta are going to, like you said, it's going to start leeching off that same resource that you discovered. Because you found it, they're showing up and you can't control them. But then
Can't even see them.
Right. But then the virtual NPCs are showing up, and then they become subsumption NPCs when you get within range of them. What are you going to do? Since the NPCs account for 9 out of 10 of the population, you're going to start engaging them.
Yeah, shoot
and
everything.
fighting every random organization
Right.
in the universe. You
Yeah.
got a lot of enemies all of a sudden, and now that's going to change how the
Yep.
quanta behave. and then there's going to be if you're engaging certain groups, you may have certain faction security showing up to kick your butt.
Yeah,
So
you're gonna be pushing
say,
up. Go ahead, Jay. I'm sorry.
I would say that the thing there is that gives an advantage to bigger orgs, because when you do find something, you're going to want to do a pile on to get it all dug out of the ground as quick as possible before the Quanta leeches it away.
Fly softly and carry a big javelin.
Well, no, I'm not saying don't attempt to fight them. What I'm saying is if the Quanta is going to deplete the resource, once you discover it, you're in a race to deplete it quicker than they can take away too much of a percentage.
But Jay, that's
Absolutely.
only an issue on a large scale, though, for an org like us. For an individual or a couple of guys playing together, what they're collecting isn't very huge on the scale. They're probably not going to cause much of a blip in Quanta behavior.
Yeah,
No.
but the resources they need to operate NOM aren't as great as the resources we need to operate as a large organization. So I think what you're going to end up doing is you're going to end up pushing these probability envelopes. Is what I forgot exactly what he talked about. Probability areas. That was, to me, a very fascinating part of the Tony Z video. Was how they're doing things is that they're setting up these probability areas, and it's all based on factors such as, you know, number of ships moving through, demand on one end to sell, the security that's available, the pirates that are available, and it's all dynamic in how you do things. And his example was you move a mantis or an interdiction ship out into this area, and you throw up your quantum interdictor, and what that really does is it enhances the probability in your favor that you're going to pull something out. And doing this kind of probability stuff, you know, we used to do it in old Dungeons and Dragons by the roll of the dice. So, you know, you're rolling your dice and you're doing everything you can to you know, make that roll in your favor. And I think that's what you're going to be doing as a large org when you find these locations. You're going to be, you know, surging resources to be able to put that probability, you know, window in your favor, so that you'll be able to, you know, to take on whatever comes down the pipeline with it.
And I think Nom's right. I think if you're in a 5-person org, you're a flea and therefore not going to be, you know, the Quanta isn't going to notice you. But if you're in a medium-sized org, and you got 20 or 30 people on something, the Quanta may become a real issue. It may become a real issue from a pure, you know, a pure leeching off of your percentages, because you can't pull the resource out quick enough to take advantage of it.
Not only can you not pull the resources, you can't send it to the refineries. You don't run the factories. You don't, you know, the Quanta control, for lack of a better term, the entire economic loop. And players are going to have to try to insert themselves at points along that economic loop. And I think the examples that he was giving today, and it's, again, early on, just starting out, and just like Nvidia said, they've got to go through testing just like they do everything else and see if it works or it doesn't work. But where the player was inserting themselves in this quantum, you know, process are at those interdiction points, you know, the combat pieces of it, you know, the bounty hunter guy that's trying to find that somebody there. I didn't get a whole lot of talk or really confidence about player organizations that want to run a commerce-based, you know, application within the game. So we'll see.
And keep in mind, I don't think Shepcap's mentioning this, and I'll toss it over to him next. I don't think we're talking about controlling the economy. I think we're talking about being able to exploit resources to edge things in your favor from a monetary standpoint, not from a upset the economy standpoint. Chap, I'll toss it over to you for your thoughts.
Yeah, and that's not what I didn't necessarily mean control. I just know that there are other space games out there where the economy is basically run by players, and if you don't,
it exists because players make everything. Yeah,
right. And if you don't team up with one of those players, you're basically SOL. So that's all I was kind of getting at. And I think what you'll see with the Quanta is if you find a giant deposit of whatever and you surge your resources to it, I think the Quanta will find it, not because you found it, but because all of a sudden you're using more fuel and more parts and more, you know, consumable items and things like that. and that will draw more NPCs into the area to support that. And then some of them may or may not stumble on what you're finding.
But either way, it's a race. If you're
Sure.
a large
Oh,
org,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I agree 100%. Large
Real
org, I think, will have an advantage.
Mm.
But yeah, I know, Josh, did you have some comments on this? I think we may have skipped
Oh.
over you a little bit.
Yeah, no worries. Talking about AI behavior, one of my favorite segments on this video was where they talked about the different types of behaviors or flaws, if you will, that the AI could have. So in this case, with the bounty hunter pirate, he got enough money. He doesn't care about making more. He wants to go to the bar and drink. So if this guy violated you, like he said, you might have an easy way to find him because he's going to go drink when he runs out of money. He's going to go, do some more hunting and whatever to get some more money and repeat that loop. He also mentioned that, if you had more morals or less morals, certain types of jobs would appeal to you. So if you were, a straight arrow guy, it would take maybe 4 times the amount to get you to do some kind of pirate job. But as things got more dangerous and more money came in, maybe that'd be more appealing to you. Maybe it would set you off on a different trajectory. I like the idea of the AI having some type of human characteristics, some type of flaws, so that it makes the gameplay interesting. And you see and hear in the universe some of the types of things we saw and heard in the Javelin that were more real and effective. Because to me, that's immersive, that's interesting. And if you learn about a particular AI that you're looking for, maybe it's part of the loop that you understand him more and you can kind of predict his behavior. In another video, I think that came out today, they talked about AI behavior, and they specifically mentioned that when you hire an AI, that it would be able to be assigned a task to repair a certain component on your ship or do certain things. So maybe when you mix it all together, you get a guy who maybe does a better job or a worse job, depending on whether he just had enough money in his bank or whether he really likes his job or whether he's just doing it for money. So I want to see those things. I want to experience that side. And yeah, we're going to be interacting and fighting with the AI, but I love the idea that there's going to be some level of realism with them.
I don't want AI that just had their girlfriend dump them and they're not really going to be able to do the job.
that sounds
That's
too
a
much
little
like
bit
real
too
life.
much behavior.
Our peers will love that.
Yeah.
Jolly, do
Yeah,
you want to
real
move
quick,
on to the
Django,
go ahead?
could you put up the slide dynamic economy? Just one slide there.
She's got it
Okay,
ready
this
for
is
us.
just a snapshot, and that's it. But if you watch the video, this thing goes through massive movements. And Tony talks about how the far left side is where the item or whatever the case may be comes from through intermediary over to the final product for sale. And it adjusts like crazy. And the proof to me is that we, the players, are not in control of the economy. The game is in control of the economy. And we're going to have to get used to that and respond accordingly as best we can, but understand you cannot dominate a sector. Remember the old days where it was like, hey, I had this great trade route. It would last from days and days, weeks on end. Fly to here, then there, and sell that, and whatever the case may be. Those are gone. Now it's a matter of you're simply going to have to respond as things come up and change. There's no longer a great route to take. You have to discover them yourself.
And they did mention that they would have the ability to tweak it. So if they had some special event or if they wanted to introduce something, they could make localized changes to cause certain effects. So I thought that was interesting too, to give them a way to make it so you were incentivized to go somewhere or whatever.
Yeah, I like the fact that he was able to track that shops on Area 18 were running out of the product, so they were shifting buying to Hurston. That kind of thing is just fascinating.
But we better be able to get that information just as quickly.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things,
stock market, man.
Exploration.
Stonks.
We've always talked about exploration from the stellar sense, going out there and finding and exploring, stellar phenomenon. I think, orgs to be successful are going to have, financial explorers who are going out there and looking, hey, I just dropped into this system. Gas is out the wazoo here. Okay. I mean, it's really, really bad. Something must be going down. The shops are empty with this and this and this. And so having that information being fed back in a loop that your organization can take and process is going to be, for those large organizations. If you're the 4 or 5 guys, you're just hosed.
Well,
But
what we've had forever is the TDD, the Trade Development Division buildings, where you see they got that big ticker up on the wall. I think that was always planned years ago to be like one of our sources of that kind of information. But Jay's right, that kind of information can be there, but it really needs to be accessible via the MobiGlass as well, because we can pull up a web page here to pull up information like that.
Well, the flip side of that is that they're going to cause that to be time delayed, and this is where a big org with a big resource network is going to come in huge. You're going to be able to come in and out of game communicate, because let's be honest, that's just going to happen. There's no way around it. And come in and say, hey, gas is super high, quantum fuel is super high here, and they need a bunch of it. And we'll be able, before it shows up in the TDD ticker in Hurston, let's say, we'll know that we need to start to send a large a large shipment out over to there and get a couple, a half hour, an hour's head start on the competition. Well, that's where you're going to be in a huge advantage, in my opinion. Josh, what do you think?
Well, it's interesting. I've been exploring the bounty hunter advancement and reputation system and trying to build up higher in that. And I just wonder if maybe as you build more allies or friends or higher levels, maybe you get better information as part of that and you have more access faster. But I do think it's important to be competitive and to have that advantage, because knowledge is power, and you need to know where to be. So I'll be curious to see how they integrate that with everything they're doing.
Completely agree. Chap, what are your thoughts?
I think we've hit on most of the good points here. I think there's going to be a huge element of this that is, for lack of a better term, word of mouth. You got to have people in the right spots who are tracking this kind of stuff in the org, or some way to, when you land, you download a file of like a current look at the stock market there, and then you can beam it to whoever, or something like that, so that you can add it to their database and update everything.
It's almost like orgs with IT teams might have an advantage, huh?
Well, I also think there's going to be an API at some point that's going to come out.
Sure.
I think they've talked about it, and I think that'll be a thing, but perhaps it'll be delayed, as was mentioned earlier.
Well, or if you have enough collectors, i.e. members that are running a piece of software pulling from their local API, and
build your own. Yeah.
Build your own. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You end up like Elite that builds their trading apps off of that, because that's one of the things that they do in Elite is that every time you land at a space station, the market information can be gathered and pushed out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's where I was basically stealing the idea from.
Yep.
Yeah.
The one thing we haven't talked about is, what about, will we have the ability to invest in AI run, organizations, get a return on our investment?
Bitcoin.
Oh God, no.
Commodity exchange.
Space coin.
Space NFTs.
No.
Robert's coin.
Wow.
Wow. Don't give them any ideas, Chap.
Why not Robert's coin? Next
week,
Jay,
print our own money.
Yeah.
Economy. Okay, pretty much covered that one pretty well. One thing that Tony did bring up was mission analysis. Johnny, can I get the mission analysis slide up there, real quick? Not that one. Yeah, that one right there. No, you got it, Joni. Thanks. Perfect. RSI is actually tracking these missions we do, game missions that are given out to us, as far as success, failure, completing or not completing the whole darn thing. And what they're finding is there are certain missions that indeed players are completing. They're completing it quickly without any real problems. And there's other missions that are almost as we can't do them at all. And I'm kind of wondering, they did not list specifically what these missions were. I'm kind of wondering if you see the one, the lower left hand, which means missions that quite simply are being failed repeatedly, taking a lot, almost always. remember the let's find the survivor, the dead body in the cave mission. I took that mission a lot, and to be honest, I did it quite simply, not to find the 4,000 credits worth of person, but rather to do some FPS mining. And sure enough, those missions I always failed. I didn't care. I wasn't there for the 4,000 credits. I won my 25,000 credits of minerals I could pick up. So
Yep.
I need to kind of wonder. I like the more details of that, but it's nice to know that RSI is tracking it. They're trying to identify problem missions to correct them, either make them harder or easier, or the case may be. And so it's a good a plus for RSI and CIS for what they're trying to do with the game itself.
Well, it was very frustrating when you'd have those mining claims where you'd have to go, take out the claim jumpers, I think it was, and you'd go there and there'd be nothing there. Nothing would happen, and you just sit there over and over. So I'm glad they've found a way to identify stuff like that, because that sucked.
Yeah. I think it's a way forward to improve the entire game for everybody, all the players in the game itself.
Yeah, I liked his run through of the dynamic mission generation machine
Yes.
that they have. Where they set up the criteria for the war to start, the criteria for it to end, and how they link it across all servers, et cetera, and then the actual states that they walked it through. I thought that was a really good peek behind the curtain on that.
They said they have 3 or 4 of those coming, so I'm looking forward to them.
My only argument on that is I would have a minimum time set. Give people a week or so or 2 to be able to participate in each phase.
Yep.
Before allowing it to move on. Don't have it where it goes from phase 1 to phase 1 ends and phase 3 completes in 72 hours, where people don't really get to participate in 2 or 3 unless they're on during that weekend.
That was a common complaint and write-up.
That was a bummer.
They asked, good credit to RSI, they asked, hey, what went wrong, what went right? And one of the very common thread there was, look, you didn't give us enough time to play the phase 3 part of the Xeno threat, and I think they'll adjust it.
Or 1 or 2. Or any of them.
1 or 2, that went for over a week.
I mean, I was on the road. I didn't.
1 did, but 2
well,
didn't.
That's a personal problem, Shaq.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have quit my
play
job
every single day.
I should have quit my job to play the game.
I mean, really?
I think
live for this game.
I think they'll understand. They'll expand that out. So everyone, I agree with everybody here. Give us more time to play this and enjoy it.
Yeah, it's just testing. They were just testing.
Yep.
If I can, if you want to know more about the Quanta, there's also Tony Z's initial description of the Quanta that he did at CitizenCon. Was that 2019 in Manchester?
Yeah.
You can find it there, and it's actually kind of funny because a guy went up to tell him, like, hey, your segment's running over, we need to wrap up the show. And he basically, if he could have murdered him with his eyeballs, I think it would have happened. And then he asked the crowd.
Everyone else in the room too, I'm sure.
And then he asked the crowd, "Do you want me to keep going?" And the crowd basically blew the roof off the place. And Tony just kind of shooed the guy off, and they kept going. It was hilarious. I don't know if that made the video because I haven't watched the video since I was there, but it was definitely worthwhile to see. So I'd recommend looking for that if you want to learn even more about Quanta.
Yes, definitely. Let's talk about dynamic. Have we covered dynamic mission generation yet, Jolly?
A little bit. We talked about the fact that Tony did talk about this Xena mission. They've learned from it. They plan on having, he said, 3 more of these type of missions coming up in the future. I think he said the next quarter, as a matter of fact, or at least 1 per quarter they want to try to do. I look forward to them. I thought they were a big blast to the game. I really enjoy the Xena mission. I know there's a 9 Tails mission out there somewhere. I've heard about it. I've read about it. Let's see what comes of it itself. I don't have no details whatsoever, but hopefully it'll come to fruition and we'll get a chance to play that one too.
Turing, thoughts as we finish talking about the dynamic economy emissions?
Yeah, I think Tony mentioned that with Bounty Hunter 2.0
Yep.
that they're going to roll out, you'll see this virtual NPC, beyond the plate, and that's when he talked about the probability encounter areas, etc. So I think that's on the cusp of rolling out, and it's really good. You need to go back and take a look at that. He goes through the various the various different types of AI and how much that they pull upon, the resources. And I was really encouraged that they're trying to do things where they keep the action alive, but they understand that things are resource intense, and trying to keep that and marrying those together. So I look forward to those. My only concern again is that it's mainly towards the the combat spectrum, and that might just be simply because it's easier to do that right now.
Yes, I agree. Nom, what are your thoughts?
What was the question again? I'm sorry. I got distracted.
Recapping the
silliness in the
dynamic
chat.
economy, dynamic missions. Are you zoning out there? Do I need to get you some coffee?
I was going to reply to something and my mind went.
It's called getting old.
No, I loved Xenothreat. I thought that was one of the best things they come up with for a while. I know they've been working on that a long time. I'm really hopeful that them saying, "Oh, we're going to have one of those every quarter." That would be awesome. I don't remember Xenothreat. Actually, wasn't it when it actually rolled out? Wasn't it relatively stable and
Yes.
didn't actually have
1, 2, yes.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, because that was actually a good thing that you could bring someone new into the game and they would enjoy. What bothers me is a lot of these things they'll tell you, "Oh, we're going to have this event, so we're going to make it a free fly."
Yeah.
It's almost
Yeah.
counterintuitive because you're pretty much guaranteeing somebody who's been thinking about checking out the game is seeing the game in the worst state it's been in a while.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And
I agree.
Yeah.
it's
not
counter.
great impression.
It works against itself. So they really need to give us some free flies where there is nothing going on and the game is relatively stable.
I completely
That's the-
agree.
Because I got friends, I can't get them to play the game right now because they really can't play it.
Well,
But they could
what
have a month or two ago.
What
Well,
about
what-
just opening up? They have a PTU where you go and do a PTU. Why don't you just open up a free fly PTU where people can go in and go for a week, fly 6 to 8 ships. They can't keep them, but you can sign up and get your account active for a week, and you just go there and do your free fly stuff.
Well,
And at
right.
the end, they send you a nice little email and said, "I hope you've enjoyed Star Citizen. If you want to go and explore more, here's how you do it."
Well,
Yeah.
don't give the PTU for free fly because those
Yeah,
are
No,
yeah.
a
bug
PTU
filled.
like I'm saying a PTU, a
Give them
separate
free
server.
fly during the PU while the rest of us are doing PTU.
But
Maybe that will work.
I could see that. Like you have live,
Coffee
and
pasta.
we see PTU, and then there's a third entry that says
Yeah,
Free
free
fly
fly.
or public
free
or
fly
something like that.
servers.
Yeah.
Free fly servers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
New
but-
people need a stable environment. They don't need the biggest thing going on because we're already sold. We know what the game is. We know what the game is.
Is delivering currently.
Delivering.
We're willing to accept a lot of instability, so we can deal with mostly what's going on now with it eating up RAM. But
Well, after 7 years, you can't stop now.
Yep.
right,
So
but somebody brand
We
new,
know
they're
what
going to see
features are
this
really
and say,
features, but-
"Well, yeah, this game's a failure. I'll check on it in a couple years if it's still around."
Yep.
So
Well-
it works against itself.
before let's take a pause there real quick before I hand it off to Josh for his thoughts. Let's see from the viewers. We're up over 100 viewers. I think we're number 3 or number 4 on the Twitch list right now. We're running up at the 1 hour and 15 minute mark. Do you guys want us to go ahead and wrap it up, or do you want us to cover the Nova tank during this episode? If you want to have us talk about tanks and armored combat during this episode, please give us a talk in chat, and we'll see if there's enough desire for talking about the tank. Josh, over to you. What are your thoughts about this dynamic gameplay and the quantum stuff?
You know, my first memory of anything in this game was going in when we had the first hangars. I had a 325A because I think I'd asked you what's the closest thing to an F-16 because I've been flying a flight simulator. So I had it. I remember it was really buggy. The only thing you could do is walk around the hangar. I think maybe you could get in and out of the ship. You couldn't fly. You couldn't do anything. And I remember the first time I went in the PTU and I realized I had a major realization that, oh my God, I need a ship that can carry cargo. I need a ship that can take me some distance and not just do combat. It was a new way of thinking about the game. When I look at where we are now, and I look at what's hopefully coming this year with iCache and server meshing, I'm really excited to see the bits and pieces of things come together, to see the dynamic economy have effect, to see the character behavior from the AI, to see the interactions that we have, and how it's going to shape our fleets and our behavior as an org and individually. I think we are finally getting to the point where we are going to see the kind of gameplay that we've wanted. We're going to see the kind of gameplay where large orgs show their benefit, where the different roles of the ships show their benefit, and where you begin to get a little more immersed and want to go into a certain game loop and understand it. I've been enjoying the bounty hunter game loop. I'm trying to get up a bit higher in it. So I guess I'm just excited for this year and to see how it's going to affect us as an org and individually as players.
Cool. And Chapcap, what are your thoughts as we talk about the, because Josh really didn't talk about the subject I asked him about at all.
Yeah, I did.
Just barely, like you grazed it a little bit with your laser fire.
That was
Yeah.
1 second. That was like just
watch from here.
it was a comparison from 7 years ago to where we are now.
Yep. Yeah. But
Look, I think,
Chap, what
I
are
think
your
that no
thoughts
matter-
on the whole AI and visible AI and how it impacts the economy?
I think that no matter what you do, you're going to need basically a targeting pod right here.
And
Uh,
Chef gets
To spot the cargo so that you
Yeah.
can,
Yeah.
got it.
Anyways, geez, I'm sorry. I derailed myself. I think the invisible AI is something important to be aware of. I think they got to be real careful to not make it seem like a cheaty thing. Like where you don't want the AI to know more than you do or have an advantage just because it is the computer, right? You don't want Skynet to win all the
Completely
time.
agree. Yeah, you can't. You've got to dumb it down and weight it so that the players have a chance.
Yeah, you've got to have some
If-
nice RNG thrown in there
Yeah.
for everybody.
Yep, everybody gets a D20.
Yeah, exactly. I think you've got to have different level NPCs, right? Some who are better at certain things and have more luck with certain things, and better skilled in all aspects.
And ones that haven't broken up with their girlfriend, apparently.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Or
yeah.
we'll assign all
My ship
those
will
to
be filled with
Josh.
the guys that just came back from drinking. I know it.
How is that going to be different from playing with org mates on a Saturday
I
night?
don't know, brother. I really don't.
Hey, we're not supposed to have any drama in this org, remember?
We don't, but that doesn't mean that half of them haven't been hitting the bottle pretty hard about 11 p.m. Okay, moving on to, with that said, it looked like there were enough people that were interested in talk. So moving on to the talk. It's a well-armored ship, or, well, not ship, but tank. I haven't actually gotten to drive around one yet. I've seen one in game. It has a big gun, a couple of light repeaters, and a crap ton of S2 missiles. So, Jolly, what are your thoughts after a week with the Tonk?
Very impressed. I bought one when it came out as a concept vehicle. I was happy I bought it. I've taken it out a few times just to shoot the thing off. It's a blast to shoot. It's kind of like going down to my local gun range and shooting my own guns. So I really enjoy it. The gun itself, the main gun, is very impressive. I do advise you can get by with just 2 players, a driver and a main gunner. But if you want to use the whole thing, you do need 3 players in there. The co-pilot is the one who's in charge of those 2 CF-377s or 27. I think they're 3S.
They're
277s.
There's
Two-
227s.
227s up top. And so you get the full use of the tank itself, along with that main gun, which is very impressive. It will shoot down a ship. So that's a good defense weapon against aircraft. It's not as responsive as a ballista or even a TR or an MT, I should say, to get your bead on the ship itself. But any slow flying ship, you'll be able to shoot down with the tank. We took it out on an org op last Saturday, I think it was. I wanted to see the tanks go against the turrets at a bunker, and I sent out 2 tanks and a Ursa to carry the Marines to clear out the bunker, and the tanks had no problem taking out the turrets themselves. So it takes a little more time as opposed to a pair of Harbingers going in there to take out the turrets, but it was a hell of a lot more fun. The tanks did their job on the ground itself.
Couple of questions. One question for me is, does the co-pilot, for lack of a better term, also control missile lock and fire?
I don't know. I was not able to fire the missiles on him yet. I believe he is the one in charge of the missiles, along with those repeaters on top.
You know, Jolly, you have a whole org full of people. You could have brought someone with you.
I was at PTU at the time, so
fair enough.
But I wanted to test it out thoroughly, and I was very happy with the damn thing. And so and we did the org op, Josh. I only had 2 people per tank. They ended up sign up for it. So if I had 3, I would have had 3. But there are no aircraft to shoot down unless I want to shoot down on my own, which I didn't want to do at that point in time. And I also use an M2, which carries 2 tanks and Ursa, no problems. You know, feeling you take 3 tanks and an M2, no problem either. Make sure you drive down the center of the M2. You can't go off to the sides of the cannon and C2. So very good ships.
Turing, what are your thoughts on the Tonk?
It's one of the most realistic vehicles I think they put in the game. You know, you really do feel like you're driving a tank. Now, I was a little taken aback with how well you can, or lack thereof, you can see out of the daggum thing. You know, it's 2951. Can you give me a virtual reality, you know, kind of view of the driver? But you know, the same company that doesn't bring you, you know, night vision or sunglasses. So what can you say? I mean,
yeah, when are we going to get some nods?
I think with missile mode coming out, you'll probably, Jay, to answer your question, when that missile mode mechanism comes out, you'll probably be able to see which one of the 3 guys, you know, obviously not the driver, but between the co-pilot and the gunner, they'll be able to switch back and forth between, you know, being able to lock those missiles in. I think nothing really sounds like when that gun goes off. I mean, you really know that thing is shooting. And I'll tell you this from firsthand experience, if it will blow the back end off a ballista really quick. So it's going to be good. The thing is, it does take time. Again, you have to learn. I mean, you have to take the time to load it up, you know, fly where you need to do. That will come easier when the game gets more places. And I think when we have the ability to say, you know, I own the C2 and I'm going to, and, you know, player A and player B are going to spawn their, you know, their tanks inside, or at least we get to a location, we can get it done. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, one thing I was kind of hoping with the tank, there's no indirect fire in the game yet. Hopefully, if they're coming through the vehicle, let's not overdo the vehicles like we did the damn personal weapons, which are way overdone in this game. I don't need more damn personal weapons being developed. I would like to see an indirect fire weapon, a mortar of some sort will be nice, and have some sort of spotter on the ground involved with what's going on. Maybe that's something that RSI could consider in the future.
Howitzer.
A howitzer, a mortar, I don't care.
Right after my targeting pod.
Or siege mode. You know, they could pull something out of StarCraft's book and have the tank go into like a siege mode or something.
Fine.
Have it just pop up and become a howitzer.
Yeah, exactly.
Howitzer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nam, have you gotten to play with the tank at all?
I have a bit, much the same as the others. I like the feel of the thing. It feels very different from the other vehicles. They really nailed this one pretty good. It does seem like you have a little trouble with the controlling the speed unless you get your controls right. But and I know we're not big on doing dual sticks. At least this group isn't. But I feel that those guys are. It's kind of sad they didn't get the chance to be able to separately map left and right tracks to their sticks, and then they could drive it that way you did with the old tank games. And that would just feel awesome in my book.
It would feel awesome.
Turn the tracks opposite directions and
spin quickly. Yep.
Yeah. I'd recommend an Xbox controller if you want to play the vehicles.
Oh yes.
I agree on that. Vehicles in general, a game Xbox controller is better than anything else in my book.
Yep.
And what was the other thing there? As far as Theus mentioned using it as an area denial weapon, I think it is very well suited for that. I think it'll even be more so once there are environmental factors that affect how well signatures are picked up in the game. So I think the way I've read it is it should make it easier for something like a tank powered down around an outpost to not be detected necessarily if you place it in the right position, let terrain hide it, that sort of thing. So those ballistas I think will come into their own more as defending a position type weapons. And this thing, that gun is just freaking awesome. If you manage to get the drops on somebody and nail them point blank with that size 5, I guess it's a rail gun, they'll feel that. And it'll like one shot an Aurora with the right hit, won't it?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's a massive gun.
Hemidal talked about a laser pointer. Gets back to the indirect fire out. Copper missiles or copper rounds.
Yes.
You're familiar with those right now. We've got that here in, we had it back in the 1990s. Why the hell in 2951 we can't have a copper type round in the game? I don't know.
They have talked about being able, I think that's going to tie into, they've talked about being able to share targets to other players outside of the ship.
Good.
They've talked about it before. So I think once we were able to pass targets from ship to ship, hopefully we can see that sort of thing coming in. But I remember a long time ago, they talked about the gun is going to be line of sight. There's not going to be any drop with it.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yep.
New vehicle. New weapon.
Would still be handy.
The missiles could be indirect. Missiles
Sure.
could.
Yep. That would be handy.
But you still have to have
pop-up mode.
LOS in order to get a lock to fire it.
Which is where the passing targeting data to another ship is going to come in.
They
handy.
talked about that in relation, to the Terrapin being able to look over the horizon.
Josh, any comments on the tank?
Yeah, I haven't been able to drive it, but from what I've heard and read, it's very impressive. I think it sparks a different question for me of where is the line between you need a ground vehicle and what the ships can do? Right now, the detection distances are so short that the ground vehicles kind of have an advantage over the ships, in my opinion. But I'm really curious to see how that plays out. I think the Tonk is going to play a very important role with that. It's very powerful, and it's going to be able to create a lot of damage. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
I think we'll see balance on the detection ranges. And the flip side of that also is when we can pass targets, having a light fighter overhead acting as a forward controller or combat controller and passing targets and passing directions down to ground vehicles, I think is going to be a huge benefit for combined arms types of assaults with larger groups.
That's
Chap,
what I've been looking for from day one.
I know it is. Chap, what are your thoughts on the tank?
I'm a big fan. I love how both the main gun and the engine sound. They've done a really good job with the sound effects on it. I actually watched a video, I think this might be one of the most recent ones, where they talk about how it was the first tracked vehicle, so it had to behave differently. And they wanted it to be more than just wheels that were acting like tracks. And they actually go into the detail of showing the individual tank tracks, the treads, and how they have holes in them, and how there's a cog on the front, a drive gear, that actually pokes through the holes on the treads to propel it forward. And I thought that was pretty darn cool that they went to that level of detail instead of just cheesing it.
I'd like to see
even more
damage.
Yeah,
one track.
Yeah,
can't
detrack
move.
it. Yeah, if you could detrack it, that'd be cool.
That tracked wheel actually was a different size of the other wheels below, so it actually had to move at a different speed for it to mesh up right. It was really cool that they did that.
Yeah, exactly. And then I haven't played with it enough to know this answer, but is the main gun, is it an energy gun or a physical projectile gun? And if so, does it run out?
Oh shoot, I had that last week.
I think it's a rail gun.
I believe it's a rail gun.
It's a rail gun that has ammunition. So it's not a plasma weapon. It's a rail gun.
So that leads me into my next thing. Is I think it's time for CIG, if they don't have one already made and just haven't shown us yet, to seriously start thinking about some type of ground refuel restock vehicle, whether it's a modified Ursa that can do it, or a space Hemmet for the ground, whatever. but something that can, a little supply truck, for lack of a better term, that can pull up and reload your ship. So that when you're out in a forward area, you can load up.
Yep, it definitely need the ability to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I think that covers it. We've got more. We actually have 2 more segments, but we're over on time right now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask our viewers if they have any questions they'd like us to answer while we chit chat for a couple minutes and see if anything pops up. Jolly, how did you think the tour went the other day with the org? I think we took almost 40 people to it.
48. We had 48 people
48.
with us. 2 crashed out in the beginning.
Yep.
I enjoyed it. Now keep in mind, I was also kind of running it, so I was watching the schedule more than anything else, but it worked out fairly well. I would say if I could redo the whole thing, I would have taken, instead of the Valk, I would have taken more Phoenixes or Connies or some sort of ship that had outward view.
Yep.
So I didn't have to have folks at the Valk get out of their seats and open the doors, take a look at the darn thing. That was probably the one thing I would adjust from. The Phoenix was fantastic. The Connie Phoenix. Take a look at what's going on out there. I think the fighter guys had clear view too. I just wish I had given a better view to the Valk passengers. The crew was okay, but the passengers could use a better view of it.
Completely agree. I want to say, before we continue on, I want to say thanks to our producer, Javelin, who's going to pop over and wave at us. It's just her this week. And she has been running the board and pulling up all the videos for us and slides, and you guys, me throwing paper at her to get her to switch things, and is rocking and rolling like a champ. And so I really appreciate her helping us out. Turing, any last thoughts?
No.
We know that's not true.
That'd be the first time. Not only a co-host, but also a client.
Yeah.
I swear to God.
I did try to get a little bit more.
Somebody buy this. Somebody buy
Solidarity
this
shave.
So I don't know if Raid for App is out there this week, but last week he asked a question and I will answer it. What is this thing over my shoulder right here? That is my wife's new Tanico wireless vacuum cleaner. And so it's also her attempt to get me to do more vacuuming, because I walk around like in a port arms position and I vacuum and stuff with it. So it's really cool.
Looks like it's made by Origin.
Yeah.
It's
made by Origin, but it's to Tanico wireless vacuum.
Nom, what are any last words?
I guess just Invictus. I wish they didn't have such a memory issue with it. Probably mostly the fireworks and stuff, but
yeah, they definitely could have pulled some stuff out and got the memory requirements down.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all I got.
Good. Josh, how about you? I think you have something you want to remind everybody about.
I do. So June 12th at 2:00 Central, there's going to be a special episode of HangarReady, the Fighter Mafia crew who's trying to understand how we can work together as an org to be effective in a combat situation. We're going to have a special episode. We'll be discussing how you go from working as an individual and working as a group and some of the lessons we've learned. In wrapping it up, I think it's been a good show. I was a little concerned with us doing back-to-back weekends, but I think we've pulled it off pretty well, and just hope people continue to enjoy their Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, and what date is that again, just so everybody can remember it?
June 12th, so 2 weeks.
Yep. Okay. And Shapcap, any closing thoughts?
Great show. I overall enjoyed Invictus. One thing we didn't touch on are the paints. I think some really cool paints came out.
Oh, yes. Lots of nice
ships.
Blue ones.
Yes.
Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Yeah, some nice blue ones, some nice stealthy looking ones too. I do have a request for Nam, though. If he could slide his cat's bed further to his left next time so we can see more of the cat in the background.
Wow.
Yes.
That would be preferred.
Yeah. Nom, you could just get right off the camera.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah. Yeah, he was
but-
snoring. I don't know why the mic didn't pick it up. He was snoring up a storm earlier. It was like,
But all in all, great show. Loved Invictus week. I hope everybody will have a happy, safe, and fun Memorial Day weekend. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for the fun show, guys.
Yeah, I really appreciate Turin and Josh and all of you guys and Jolly pushing for us to do back-to-back shows to see if we could do it. And I think it went fairly well. We definitely went 90 minutes. We did not have the technical glitches this time around that we did last, so I'm excited about that. Just a quick reminder, June 12th, 2 p.m. Central Time, we'll be doing, Josh and his crew, not the rest of us, but just Josh and his crew will be doing a special dedicated Fighter Mafia show to talk just about group, small craft, fighter craft tactics. And then we will be back June 26th. And I'm going to say this and double check with Jolly real quick. June 26th at 2 p.m.
Correct.
to do the next HangarReady episode, which is roughly a month from now. Jolly, any last words before we cut out?
Me?
Yes, you.
Real quick. Okay, remember, guys, 31st this month, 1st next month. All ships on sale during the Invictus week are up there. So grab what you want to grab. I bought a ship. I upgraded a ship, and I bought some paints. Though I agree, paint's kind of a waste of money, but what the hell? I don't really care anymore. We refer to the community, we being we, as a community, call it a tonk. It is a tank, no a tank. So keep that in mind in the future. So not trying to make fun of the guy who did a hell of a lot of good work and was very successful in developing the tank itself for us to play with. And I appreciate that. A real quick update. Remember previous our HangarReady, I talked about they dropped the when you complete a refining job, you weren't getting the pop-ups. They're now back in the game. So when you first log in, if you have a refinery job that's done, you'll be notified of it as soon as you log into the game. So I appreciate that one. For the guessing work, I don't have to work to the refinery saying, is it ready yet or not? Now I know it is, so I was happy about that one. And don't forget, Monday is Memorial Day, and the purpose is to remember those who have lost their lives in service to their nation. So keep that one in mind, and hope you all enjoy a very nice Memorial Day weekend.
I agree completely. Take 2 minutes and think about the folks that came before us that gave the last full measure. Guys, thank you very much. My co-hosts, who are always better than I am. I'm just here as the ringleader. And, just trying to keep the lions from killing me. And thank you all to all the people that were watching out there. You have been absolutely fabulous. We wouldn't do this if it wasn't for you. And we'll see you back here on the 12th and again on the 26th. Have a great weekend and have some fun with your family. Get some sun outside.